With thanks to Draftstars, Australia's #1 platform for your daily fantasy NFL. It is the Draftstars NFL Show for week 17. Usually this is the last week, but no, not this year. It's week 18 next week. Tom is back. Mate, how are you going? How'd you go last week?
Last week was, I think, maybe the first week where I just failed to get up at all.
Yeah.
Just,
I thought I put you under the bus because I was like, how did Tom go? And I'm like, I can't even see his name in this.
Just couldn't keep up with the holiday schedule, so missed a week.
Now, the thing is, I can't play anymore, so I'm relying on you to make the money of us duo now. But thanks for everyone who tuning in. Make sure you get to dailyfantasyrankings.com.au for Tom's preview for Week 17 action, which is pretty huge. So let's not muck around. Let's get straight into it. We've got 14 games. Like the start of the season, you want these huge games. You got a lot of options. You got 9 games in the early window at 5 a.m. and 5 in the late window. If you get on the Draftstars, they actually have a little late contest. So, mate, if you sleep in next time, you can always just jump into the little 10x contest if you've decided to sleep in. Mate, let's bring up the schedule. Plenty of games to get through here. Couple of games, obviously, that have some high totals, including the Cardinals, Cowboys, and the Chiefs and the Bengals. There has been a couple of line movements. Now, if you look at the Rams, they're actually now 5.5-point favorites against the Ravens, and then the Chargers have also been pushed out to 7.5 against your Broncos. So when you're looking at this massive kind of slate, are you looking at games to pick at, or are you just trying to extract value throughout your lineups here?
With this many games, I think we're just trying to pick off individual players, especially with so many players out. There's just a lot of kind of value opportunities popping up in one-off games. Obviously, a lot of low total games. I haven't had a look at the weather yet, but I'm guessing a lot of those will be impacted by weather at this time of the year. So, other than obviously Chiefs Bengals will be a big one where there's some stacking opportunities. Both teams have been going pretty well. And other than that, just picking and choosing individual players, I think.
Now, in terms on the betting board, what have you got this week? Obviously, the Bears were no good money line, but yeah.
Did they not get a 1-point win last week? I thought they did.
Oh, did they?
I think so.
Oh, well, $3.
I should know. Yeah, celebrate a $3 something winner.
Mate, you slept in.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Anyway, Dolphins $2.55 against the Titans. They've won 7 in a row. I don't really see how they're not the favourites in that game. So that's a pretty easy one for me.
I like that. I do like that. Now, obviously, the theme for the last few weeks has been picking off the COVID/injury news, and obviously this week is no different. Look at the amount of players this week that we need to dissect here. Key outs, I suppose, for this particular slate include Antonio Gibson, who has COVID, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's actually out for the Chiefs. Miles Sanders is also out for Philadelphia. The rest of those guys are kind of like bit pieces for their teams. Darren Waller is probably the one as well, but he's been out for the last few weeks. As for the questionable tags, this one's going to be a bit tricky with Lamar Jackson probably doubtful to play. Carson Wentz is actually the COVID list, so he's actually on track to play. And then Jimmy G, Justin Fields, and Jared Goff are looking unlikely. And then Davian Harris, who we found last week, has popped himself back on the questionable list again, but he is once again at a cheap salary. The Tampa Bay situation with Mike Evans and Antonio Brown is probably the key feature for your Bucs stacks as well. But apart from that, got to keep your wits with you again this week, buddy.
Yeah, it's an absolute mess, isn't it? Yeah, it's one of those things. Just wait as late as you can, see what the projections are or what news you can get hold of, and try and pick a few things out at that point. It's just so hard to sort through it all when a player might come back in later tonight and changes everything. So tricky.
It is a bit tricky. I think with draft stars leaving the slate contest going up pretty late has mean that they have alleviated some disaster situations in terms of cheap quarterbacks or cheap running backs or guys are just too cheap to make its lineups pretty easy to fill. So kudos to them. But there are a couple of spots that we'll go through position by position for this particular slate. And we'll start here at quarterback. And I'm pretty much ignoring anyone below, I would say, Tyler Huntley at 13,220 because these guys down here are either questionable or doubtful or just not good at fantasy football at all. Would you agree in that kind of summary?
Yeah, I think that's wise. With so many good players on the slate, it's just going to be pretty difficult for anyone down the bottom to compete with some of the ceiling games that we should see. So yeah, starting with Huntley, Taysom Hill, obviously Burrow was huge last week, and then Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance. They're all kind of mid-range guys with a ceiling that, it'll be tough for anyone below them to beat that, I think.
Yep. Let's start at the top of the board. Obviously, Josh Allen is going to be pretty popular here at 16,380. You have him up in your article this week. It just seems that these last 3 weeks, he's just now gone up a bit of a level with his offense for the Bills.
Yeah, obviously they lost their way a bit there for a month or even more. And yeah, they've just decided put it back in Josh's hands, let him run, let him throw downfield, and obviously having an impact in the box score as well. So we've been saying all year he's the guy with the ceiling out of all of them. Good matchup again with the Falcons, and he is the most expensive, but it's not a big enough price difference for me to worry about that, I think.
Now, just below him is Patrick Mahomes against the Bengals, which could potentially be in a bit of a shootout. But Bengals haven't really been a team that consistently put up high scores. If you look at Mahomes here, could you justify that 16,000 price tag?
I think you need to have some shots at him if you're playing a lot of lineups. Yeah, he'll get the ownership as he always does, of course, and maybe often the high total game doesn't end up being the one you want to go for in terms of winning these slates. So yeah, can't tell you not to play him, but he hasn't exactly lived up to his reputation this year all that often. So looking elsewhere if possible.
Now, speaking about reputations, these last 2 weeks from Tom Brady has been pretty rough. 15,670. Still some doubts about who's he actually going to throw in the ball to. Does that mean a bit of a fade for Brady?
Oh yeah, he's obviously too old. Doesn't have the arm strength anymore. Just not a good quarterback. No, I don't know. I think if Antonio Brown and Mike Evans are good to go, that's enough weapons with Gronkowski. So the Jets are one of those matchups where you think it's an easy matchup, and they're actually not a horrible defensive outfit. So, again, I'm probably preferring Allen, Herbert, Prescott, but I'm still considering playing a bit of Brady.
Yeah, look, in summary, I do like also apart from Allen, I do like Dak Prescott against the Cardinals. I think that could be a game that we could target there. And I also do like Tyler Huntley, who has shown that in reserve for Lamar Jackson, he can get it done. So, look, he has been priced up in that 13K range, but as we mentioned before, I don't really like anyone below this particular tier. So, yeah, Prescott, Allen, Huntley is probably in my top 3 this week. Let's move on to running back, and then I think it's been more of a theme going forward that we're finding value in the running back position due to the stuff with COVID and injuries and that. And there's no different this week because we've still got Damian Harris towards the cheap end of the scale here at 8,620. 3 touchdowns last week, 100 yards. Just got it done against the Bills. So now coming up against Jacksonville, which is not exactly a hard matchup, could be going back to Harris if he does get clear to play.
Yeah, obviously, you guys at Draftstars don't want to price him up. Yeah, it's a situation there where they can have kind of a 3-way running back share if Stevenson and Bolden are both good to go. But Harris just keeps getting it done despite being injured, despite whatever else is going on with him. So, yeah, just way too cheap again. And then we've got Daryl Williams as well at the same price with Edwards-Helaire out, who stands out as a massive value as well.
Yeah, 8,320. I think you'll find that these two will be paired up quite a bit to save a bit of salary. But if you weren't going down to these two, top of the board, Jonathan Taylor at 17,500 against the Vegas Raiders. Any interest there?
Yeah, plenty of interest. Yeah, just same deal as always. He's the best running back there is right now. One of the highest ceiling fantasy players overall, and compared to, like, you look at compare him to Cooper Kupp, kind of quite similar expectations and $4,000 price gap. So if I'm spending right up to the top, I'll do it at running back with Taylor rather than with Kupp at wide receiver. But yeah, I'm also happy with David Montgomery there. That's quite a big kind of price gap to the top guys, and I just have a feeling he's building towards that kind of run of ceiling games that we saw at the end of last year. I think I saw he's got 5+ catches in the last 4 games in a row, which just adds a nice bit of ceiling to what he can do.
Now, if you're going to go off the board here, is there any sneakies that you're looking at?
Yeah, I had one. Deandre Swift. He hasn't played for about a month. Have to make sure he's a full go in this one. But if he is, I quite like that matchup. The Seahawks just aren't going that well. It's a backup quarterback for the Lions, but that could just mean dumping it off to Swift even more, which they like to do. So I think that could be a sneaky one where no one wants to play him first game back.
I've also got a sneaky one in Sony Michel as well at 12,760. If he can go 20 plus like last week, I think that's not a bad pivot as well. And just quickly, I have to point out, I'm not sure what's happening with New York, but Saquon Barkley's just $9,000. Sure, terrible 2 weeks, but he can go 20 plus. Yes, it's terrible matchup. It's the Bears. It's probably the reason why he's 9K. So I won't be playing him, but I'll be keeping an eye on him to see what actually happens there. All right, wide receiver. Yeah, Cooper Kupp, as you mentioned, 21,510. If you're gone the old cheapy running backs there, can you get him in, or is it just too much?
You can, but I just feel like I don't want to this week. Even a high 20s score isn't really moving the needle that much. And with guys like Diggs, Tyreek Hill, even like CeeDee Lamb and Keenan Allen significantly cheaper, I think we can find someone who can match him in that range.
Now, in that range as well, we're pretty big on Tyreek Hill at 15,400, and also he just didn't do anything with a 3.9. It was the time to back the truck up against the Bengals in a high total match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Wrote him up in the article, as I often do. Yeah, you can just see like every second week it's a ceiling game almost. Bit of an exaggeration, but yeah, that kind of player, like the price is just too good for that kind of player. He should be kind of 17 plus if they want to price Debo up there. So yeah, he'll be quite chalky, I'd imagine, but for good reason.
Let's talk about what's happening at the Bucks. So we both got questionable tags for Mike Evans and Antonio Brown. I feel that Antonio Brown's been priced up too much in this particular spot. 15,000 against the Jets seems a bit too pricey.
Yeah, it does for someone who's barely played. That was his first game back for a couple of months last week, and he was good. What did he have? 10 catches and 100 yards. So yeah, there's more upside there. He is in play, I think, but again, much preferring Hill, Lamb, Keenan Allen, even AJ Brown was amazing last week. So yeah.
Let's talk about what's happening also at the Bills. If you're going to have Josh Allen in your teams, there's been a bit of a pivot. It's been a change in the wins down there in Buffalo because we didn't have Cole Beasley nor Emmanuel Sanders. So Gabriel Davis there with a form of 17.3 at 6,710. Is this a great cheap value play, or do you think that this is a bit of a flash in the pan?
No, I do think things have changed there a bit. Obviously, Sanders is 34 or whatever he is. He's faded as the season's gone on. Beasley doesn't have all the upside in the world, and Davis is a big athlete, still young. They love him in the red zone, and yeah, I think it's a legitimate kind of growth in his role late in the season. So yeah, given the price hasn't changed after kind of a career best game last week, I think I definitely want to go back there again.
Excellent. Okay. And the last one I want to touch on here is obviously at Houston, of all places. Brandon Cooks, form of 20.6 in his 6-game average of 15.1, just at the 10,570. I reckon he's great just to plug in your third kind of wide receiver outside of your stacks this week.
Yeah, definitely too cheap. I'm guessing, is it Davis Mills quarterback there this week?
Yes.
Yeah, he does. He's been playing better, obviously, and he does like throwing the ball to Cooks. So I imagine, another 10-ish catches and possibly 100 yards is in play again.
Any other wide receivers that you want to quickly touch on?
I just had one down the bottom as an alternative to Gabe Davis, which was Kendrick Bourne in that Jaguars matchup. Yeah, he's had a few decent games in the second half of the season, and just have a feeling he could have one again this week.
All right, we'll keep an eye on him. Let's move on to tight end. So Kelsey, Kittle, both at 15K, Andrews 13.8, and then the Gronk at 12. Don't worry about Darren Waller. He's got COVID. He's going to be out. He's at 11,000. And then Dallas Goedert at 9,490. And I reckon that's the first guy you want to be talking up here.
Yeah, always the first guy. First guy in the article and first guy to talk about. Yeah, had those two breakout games, which I basically missed after talking about him all season. So one down game, and it's time to talk about him again. The price dropped a bit, and yeah, those top sort of 3 or 4 guys, they've all been going pretty well, but I just don't want to spend that much at tight end this week. I'd rather start with Goddard and then go down from there.
An interesting player that's been priced all the way down is Kyle Pitts. He's now available. It's just at 7,490. It's the Buffalo matchup. really in it.
Yeah, it is. It's a brutal matchup, but he's cheap. Maybe just catch one touchdown and you've got a great bring back to a bill stack. And yeah, it's not like we're expecting much else to happen at tight end, so you're not giving up too much if it doesn't work out.
Now, if you do have the cash to spend towards the top of the board, is there any one of those top four you're targeting?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to say Andrews probably. I think Huntley has quite liked him as a target. Obviously, 3 massive games in a row. Everything else is kind of not going that well there at the Ravens. So I think Andrews as a focal point is pretty hard to look past.
And anyone below this devilish 7K range that we could pick the bones out of?
I'm guessing Foster Moreau won't be chalk this time with Waller out like he was a while back. So maybe I'll take him as a kind of a sneaky option.
Fair enough. 6,420 is the price for Foster this week. All right, let's move on to the last position, which is obviously the defense and special teams. And look at this price here for the Patriots, $10,800. Yeah, it's justified, I guess, but surely they can't score more than 20 fantasy points, which you need at that price.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not paying over 10K for a team that's going to lose to the Jaguars. So I'll take a pass on that one.
All right. Now, obviously, below that are some fair prices. I think the Bucks are in a good spot, obviously, against the Jets at 7,650. The Bears as well against the Giants at 7,140. Probably a little sneaky there. Seattle Seahawks also against another backup quarterback at 7,340. They're probably your safe-ish ones, if you ever want to call it a term for your defense special teams. But is there anyone under that you can look at?
Yeah, I think there's one really obvious one in the Dolphins who, 7-game winning streak, which has included 4 DST scores over 17. So that's pretty hard to look past at the price. Obviously, Tennessee's kind of a middling matchup with the state their team's in. So that's a good one. And then I'm kind of interested in the Giants going against Andy Dalton this week. Probably not the team that's going to rack up 20-plus points, but maybe double digits is in play at a good price.
Excellent. All right, so that is week 17 of the NFL season. And then obviously I do have a team preloaded, ready to go. So here's my team if you are interested on Draftstars. So I've gone Josh Allen, Montgomery, and then I've gone Ronald Jones. We didn't actually mention him, but you have mentioned him in your article. Do you just want to quickly highlight why have I gone Ronald Jones here?
Obviously, what we've seen from Fournette this season, and just hoping that Rojo steps into that role a bit, which he can do. He's obviously a perennial fantasy disappointment, so it's a little tricky to trust him, but I think he's in play, even at the priced up a little bit.
Now, I've gone here Jalen Waddle at 12,400, Brandon Cooks that we touched on, and a bit of DJ Moore, because obviously Sam Dalton is now back in the team. Dallas Goedert, we talked on. Daryl Williams, which is pretty much nearly an essential play, and I've gone the Bears there. So that is my team for week 17. Now, obviously, a new year brings new grid fortune, so good luck for your teams there for this week, Tom. You can catch Tom's article on dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. Check out the updates in that particular article. We'll keep an eye on the team news throughout the day. Make sure you give us a like on the way out on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Smatho. Happy New Year to you and everyone else. And let's enjoy these last couple of weeks of NFL.
That's right. It's good till it's gone, as they say. All right, take it easy. Thanks, Tom. See you later.
Thank you.